Hello, and welcome to the Health Trip podcast with me, Jill Foose. I'm a functional medicine and integrative nutrition health coach located in downtown Chicago. I'm the founder of Jill Foose Wellness, a private concierge health coaching business where I work with individuals, groups, and corporations diving deep into helping folks discover their own unique health equation to optimize their wellness. Join me and my guests as we venture down intriguing, science-packed roads, debunking old medical paradigms, perusing new innovative therapies, modalities, and protocols while living our best life. On today's podcast, I welcome Dr. Beth Bartlett. Welcome, Dr.
Hi, Jill.
Beth.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being a guest. Dr. Beth graduated from the National College of Chiropractic in 2001 and holds a Bachelor of Science in Human Biology and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from DePauw University. As a lifelong learner, Dr. Beth completed her functional medicine certification through the Institute for Functional Medicine in April of 2019. She has been in clinical practice for 18 years, owning her own musculoskeletal practice in Illinois for 8 years, and starting her functional medicine practice in Northbrook, Illinois in 2014. Dr. Beth's passion lies in unraveling each of her patients' health story and guiding them towards a health transformation. So again, I'm so excited to have Dr. Beth here.
It's the nail on the head.
I love when I get to read everybody's bios and just look up and look at their face, and they're always like, wow, I did all of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big undertaking.
And knowing you share a similar passion too. So
absolutely. So today we are going to talk about traditional Chinese medicine and functional medicine, how the two have similarities and how they differ. But before we dive into this conversation, I do want to just talk about the medical disclaimer that although Dr. Beth is a chiropractor, I'm a health coach, and we are just having a conversation about science. We are not your doctors. We are not prescribing anything to you. So if anything sounds interesting, you can reach out to Dr. Beth afterwards or your own primary care physician and talk about any of the little nuggets you're taking away. And with that, we are going to start our conversation. So traditional Chinese medicine, which I really do not know a lot about, is an ancient form of healthcare that dates back over 2,500 years and includes natural treatments like acupuncture, herbal remedies, dietary advice, stress and emotional support, and treatments like cupping. TCM, along with Ayurveda, are two of the oldest and most renowned forms of ancient medicine in the world, and becoming more widely available. TCM practitioners look to treat the root cause of disease and take a holistic approach to helping people experience healing without the use of conventional drugs. So my first exposure to traditional Chinese medicine was actually Ayurveda. And I have a girlfriend, a very close girlfriend of mine from high school, who is an Ayurvedic doctor in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And when she was just starting, I was visiting her. I was probably in my early 20s. And I remember she looked at my tongue, she looked at the palm of my hand, and she was able to tell me what types of foods were not going to serve me well, what types would serve me well. Of course, I don't remember any of this information, but I was really digging it at the time. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, just you were intrigued.
Totally intrigued. It was really my first experience with holistic advice and medicine. And she's just one of the coolest women I know too. She's, although I'm a total carnivore and she's a diehard vegan, we certainly agree on holistic practices, but just have different perspectives on it. Yeah. So I'm really intrigued by traditional Chinese medicine. So I read on your website, Dr. Beth, that you grew up in a funeral home, which is really intriguing to me, how you went from there to here. So tell me about that journey.
Well, Yes, I was. My parents were owners of a funeral home in a small town in Indiana, in Lebanon, Indiana, and I came home from the hospital, and funeral home was my home. So after I was born, and up until about 12, I was 12 years old, and from that moment, I was exposed to really serving people. Bottom line, I watched my parents take care of people in probably their most vulnerable time of their lives, and just kind of knew that's something I wanted to do. And my interest just kept developing over the years, and knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. I thought wanted to go to med school first, and then kind of went more of the natural route. And so, like you said, here we are today, and that's kind of the story, and kind of how it all got started. So,
What happened in your life that made you turn more towards the natural approach to medicine versus taking a traditional path going to medical school?
well, right when I graduated from undergrad, after I'd gotten my degree in psychology, my mom died just suddenly of a heart attack. And it was in that moment that I knew that almost I had to figure out why. I didn't want to just accept. Well, of course I had accepted it, but the reason why, why did she have a heart attack at 53? And then, that was it. And so that led me to, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, digging deeper into why these things happen, and what's behind heart disease, for example, and that type of thing. So that's kind of what really kind of switched the momentum, I'll say, from a traditional medical approach to a more natural medicine
So
approach.
you went to school for chiropractic, but how did that transition into studying traditional Chinese medicine?
So I when I was in chiropractic school, I worked in an office nearby, and they had a biomeridian machine, which focuses on looking at all the organs and organ systems in the body, and getting through your acupuncture meridians, getting a reading with a probe on different points on your hands and your feet, and just assessing those energetic levels traveling through all the acupuncture meridians in the body, basically energy meridians. And at certain points on your hands and feet, those meridians come to a head, and you can measure the energy traveling, up and down those meridians, and you can see if a point is stressed or weakened, and then you can figure out then how to fix it. I'll just kind of, as an example, if the small intestine meridian was high, and what I mean by high is there's a graph represented, and then probably from about 45 to 55 is in the green, and that means that point is balanced. So if that point was, let's say, a 70 small intestine, I knew that small intestine was stressed for one reason or another, and it kind of would lead me down a path to, okay, let's figure out what's behind that elevation. Is it bacteria? Is it, do they need a probiotic? Do they this or that type of thing? So while I was in chiropractic school, I was exposed to that, which was pretty neat. And then probably I would say about 10 years ago, one of my mentors, I got to know him pretty well, and he just recently wrote a book with his daughter about facial diagnosis and traditional Chinese medicine, and acupuncture in some cases, but kind of what that's all about, and how that differs with the traditional medical model of Western medicine today.
Okay,
So
wait, I have a couple questions. The
yeah, sorry.
the first example, when you're talking about the small intestine, is that person hooked up to something to look at the meridians? Like, how does that work? And
Mhm,
then in your second example with the facial diagnosis, are you
mhm,
just looking at your patient,
mhm.
or are they hooked up to something? How are the meridians even found out in the first place?
Mhm.
And how do you continue that practice?
Yeah. So in your first question, the patient is holding a copper piece in one hand, and then with a probe, I touch the different points on on their hands and feet, and it's a software that I use, and I actually a little bit off topic, but it's a good example. I actually work for a holistic dentist sometimes, and I test I do his materials testing. So all the different materials he uses in his practice, we have inputted the input the by the signal, the frequency, because everything in the universe basically has a frequency or an energy. So we have input the frequencies of the materials that he uses into this particular bioenergetic machine. And so when I touch the probe to a point that corresponds to the jaw tooth meridian, I can then see if the patient likes that, if their body likes that particular material, or if it makes them stressed, or if it weakens them. So
Hmm.
it's and I'm getting the information directly from them. I can't influence the test at all in any way. And so it's a pretty cool tool to have. So, and then your second question about the facial, I'm just looking at the face. So um, the intestines are uh, represented on your forehead, and so if you've seen some people that have really deep lines, horizontal lines in their forehead, that usually is they've got a digestive disturbance of some sort, usually. So
So, how do you conduct facial diagnosis? Let's say if a woman comes in, but she has Botox done.
yeah, so that's a thing. So I would probably say if she can provide me with a picture prior to her having
Mm,
Botox, and I don't want her smiling. So that's important too, because you can smile and get wrinkles
right.
from the areas of your face. So um, that's important too. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing to combine. So putting all those pieces together, you come up with something pretty special. So
And how was it discovered about the meridians? Like how this organ connected to this meridian with this type of energy and what that should be? Like, who figured that all out?
you know, the Chinese did about 5,000 years ago. Um, they've been just studying the meridians and organs and the circadian rhythm clock, and just kind of integrating all of that. The five element theory. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of that, but how the different organs are paired with each other. So
Yes, yes.
yes, yep. So and each organ has a certain time of day that it kind of regenerates itself. So another example here, if somebody came in and said, I'm waking up around 2:30 every morning, and because I'm sure you ask patients if they're sleeping well, and so I always say, is it a certain time of day or is it a certain time in the night when you wake up? And they say,
Hmm.
2:30. So from 1 o'clock to 3 a.m., 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. is when the liver regenerates itself. And so
Ah,
I know that there might be something going on with the liver where there's congestion, or whether, let's say, they've got a problem with um, anger, because anger and liver, the emotion of anger corresponds to the liver. So kind of just general liver support is probably on the top of my list.
That's just so cool. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. And my next question is talking about how um, traditional Chinese medicine is not supported by scientific research,
Yeah.
and that many of the treatments are based on empirical research and testing. And I
Mhm.
want to unpack that a little bit. Like, why is science not accepting traditional Chinese medicine? I back about 26 years ago, I had half my thyroid taken out.
Mm.
Prior to the surgery, I was really stressed out, and my traditional doctor suggested that I go see an acupuncturist,
Mm.
just in a Chinese doctor, just to sort of help myself calm and be prepared for the surgery, which I thought was, 25 years ago, to have the surgeon tell me to do that, I thought
Yeah,
was really incredible.
for
And
sure.
I went for several months to prepare myself for the surgery because I had all these babies at home and I was stressed out, and
Mhm.
it was magical. I
Mm.
looked forward to those sessions, that deep sleep once those needles were put in me.
Mhm.
And he would talk to me about the meridians and what was going on in my body, even though I didn't really understand or feel anything, but
Right.
he could sense that energy,
Mhm.
either being positive or negative inside me.
Yeah.
So tell us what's empirical research and why this is such a struggle for the science community.
So I think traditional medicine is more outcome based and really
Mm-hmm.
based in data and result tests and results, and whereas Eastern medicine, the Eastern approach is more intuitive and abstract and being aware and that type of thing. Uh, if you're talking about kind of Western medicine kind of wanting to hit the bullseye and with a particular diagnosis, but Western or Eastern medicine is more about, okay, let's look at pH levels, let's look at the immune system, let's look at inflammation, and more of an artistic, if you will, even right
Mm-hmm.
brain approach. I think that's kind of my answer on that, in terms of just kind of a different, more rational thinking, if you will, and in the Western approach, and more of an overall, hey, let's try to help the body heal itself, give it a little bit of a push, a little bit of something, and boom, it knows exactly what to do. So
How important is the mindset of the individual you're treating? I would uh, think that by the time someone came to see you,
mhm,
knowing what you do and what you specialize in,
mhm.
they have to be open minded.
They have
But
to
if
be
you,
halfway there, yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
what if they come in with some negative energy, some negative thoughts about this process? Maybe their friend urged them, gave them a little nudge to go see someone like yourself.
Mhm.
So, how important is that connection of the mind and the body?
Yeah, so I just take it slow with them, as I'm sure you have some of the same experiences, and
Hmm.
just kind of do a little dance and say, I'm not gonna push them to do anything, but I'm gonna just feed them little tidbits. And I've had several people like this, and once I've found start coming around and feeling better, they're like, oh, give me more, and you uh, just kind of ease into it, and not I try not to overwhelm patients when they first come in, and sometimes this is the first time they've heard of anything like this, and they're like, you know come on, and they just have they've the traditional medical model is what they've been used to, and so it's just trying to, not saying that the traditional medical model isn't useful, and there shouldn't be a combination of both, but just kind of just education. This is the big piece of it. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, besides this one surgeon 25 years ago who suggested I go see the Chinese doctor, I've never had another experience like that.
mm-hmm.
And I was listening to another podcast the other day about how important it is in our future to integrate Western and Eastern medicine, that we're both there for the wellness of our patients. But for some reason, Western medicine does not want to accept holistic practices. I even find I even find it difficult to merge traditional doctors with functional medicine doctors.
Mm-hmm.
They all went to med school,
Yep.
but functional medicine doctors went and took further education on holistic healing and different practices and modalities and protocols, right? How important do you think, and do you think it's ever going to happen, the merge between Eastern and Western medicine?
That's a great question. I think it's possible. I think some practitioners are more willing and open than others, but until we get rid of the mentality of asking what's wrong and instead asking what's not right, I think that we're going to have a hard time melding the two. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on that. I'd love to see it happen.
Yep.
But we'll see, right?
It's sort of like being a health coach and then having nutritionists and dietitians, and we're all there to help our client or our patient become more self-aware of how to eat for themselves, what their lifestyle should be. But for some reason, all three of us don't always work together well. And it really depends on the practice and the person on if we will work together. And we should be working together. We're all there for the same reason. We all bring a different concept, different theory, different ideas for the individual. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 10 to 25 years in medicine. I think traditional medicine is amazing for acute issues. Heart attacks, or if you need your leg amputated, right? Like that's why we go. But in terms of preventative medicine and maintaining homeostasis, I don't think traditional medicine does anything for us.
Excels at that. Yeah,
exactly. So one of the experiences I had when I did go to the Chinese doctor was the prescribing of lots of herbs in pill form. And I think I was up to like 30 or 40 a day of these tiny little pills. And it was really expensive. That is the one part of traditional Chinese medicine that I really wasn't open-minded to. It seemed like an excessive amount of pills to be taking. And I don't know if it helped or didn't help. What are your thoughts on that part of traditional Chinese medicine? And are those herbs overseen by the FDA? And if not, who then makes sure that they're safe to take?
So yeah, the FDA doesn't control any vitamins or herbs or anything like that, but I always make sure that I get my products or recommend products that are third party tested, that have been guaranteed to me that what's in them is truly in them. And I think we discussed before, if you can't pronounce the words in there in the ingredients list, probably, and you have to look it up, probably don't want to go down that road. But just how many fillers and phytoestrogens and phthalates and beauty products, and we could get off on a long tangent here, but or I could. But yeah, there's no regulatory board at the moment. But I just rely on the practitioner to tell me, I'm trusting them with my health, right? So just saying, hey, what's your recommendation? What's the best fish oil to take? And they'll usually just take your suggestion and run with it. So
Yeah, for all you listeners out there, it is so incredibly important to not take buying supplements in your own hands. For sure, have the guidance of a health coach or a nutritionist or a functional medicine practitioner, a chiropractor, whoever it is. Don't go buying them off Amazon, and definitely don't be walking into like a Costco or a GNC and purchasing them there either. They're, you're
or they sit
wasting
on
your
the shelf.
money.
Yeah, sit on the shelf for who knows how long, and
Right.
temperature controls
Yep.
and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. So the root cause of all disease is inflammation.
Mhm.
How does traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture heal inflammation in the body? And does it take substantially longer to heal going this route?
So yeah, everything is caused by inflammation, right? I think there's probably not a disease or condition out there that doesn't involve inflammation, and we know that some inflammation is, we need that for the body to say, hey, something's up here, and I need some help. But the problem comes when there becomes inflammation upon inflammation upon inflammation, and then that's when we run into issues. But in terms of time progression, it depends on if the issue or the problem is chronic or if it's acute. But I find that I get pretty quick results with let's just take acupuncture for example. Um, Throughout this last year, I've had a lot of patients come in for anxiety and
Mm.
depression um, for acupuncture, and just hitting a few specific points just relaxes them. As a matter of fact, most of my patients fall asleep when um, when they have the small hollow needles in them, and I try to create an atmosphere of, in the wintertime, there was a heating pad on and just to warm the room, and nice soft music, dim the, or turn off the fluorescent lighting, and just trying to create the atmosphere for healing is a big thing too. So, but yeah, um, big category inflammation is.
So walk us through an appointment with someone who comes in with metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is the combination of I think it's three of like five things, including obesity and high blood pressure, high blood glucose levels, among some other things. So what would your approach be to someone like that?
Yeah. So we, first get a full history, family history, the whole ball of wax. And when I say the whole ball of wax, I mean questions about where you grew up, where did you live? Did your mom breastfeed you? Were you bottle fed? How are you sleeping? How are your bowel movements? And I like to look at some pretty in-depth blood work. Sometimes they come in with some labs drawn if I want more, which I usually do. For example, looking at insulin levels, that's not a typical number or typical test to
Right.
run. And so I love to look at insulin, because sometimes maybe your glucose and your hemoglobin A1C aren't elevated yet, but the insulin is starting to rise, and because you can catch a problem before it comes really a problem. But I like to use anti-inflammatory nutrition plan, and I like to use something, it's called Jambola, from Physica Energetics, but it has chromium picolinate in it. It has lipoic acid in it. It has vanadium in it. It has gymnema leaf in it. So it's a combination of things that really work on that insulin, decreasing that insulin level, and helping the pancreas function like it should. And then if we do acupuncture, taking them through some endocrine points, because it's a metabolic disease, right? So we're talking about endocrine system, and insulin is actually a hormone. So that's a whole nother whole other topic in terms of hormones. But um, just taking a full look at the spectrum of how many different things we can do to help this patient.
So it's a combination of nutrition, acupuncture, Chinese herbs,
Mhm.
and is that pretty much the equation?
Yeah, that's pretty much my approach. Yeah. hmm hmm
And how often would that client come and see you?
You know, usually I have people come about every 2 weeks or so. And let's say, in this case, let's say they're trying to lose weight, or um, that type of thing. I have a body composition machine in the office too, and so we're able to kind of keep track of things from a data standpoint. But and oftentimes, going back to the facial diagnosis thing, I can see the face change. If I take pictures of patients, I can
Hmm.
see if let's say they're super inflamed and their face is really, really bulbous and round. Um, I can see that inflammation just kind of draining almost out of them. So that's another aspect of things too. So
Yeah, I love those body composition scans. What do you
yeah,
guys have, the InBody or the
yeah,
DEXA?
yeah,
They're
in-body
both, yeah, they're both great. I love the InBody. It
yeah,
really tells you so much information that you can use along with blood work and creating a plan for your patients.
exactly.
Really
Agreed.
incredible.
Yeah.
As a middle-aged woman, how would traditional Chinese medicine deal with me going through menopause right now?
hmm
I don't actually have any hot flashes, but all the other things. Sometimes I don't sleep very well. Sometimes I, feel a cycle coming, but it's not.
hmm
So, but I definitely feel like my hormones are a train wreck
hmm
every week.
hmm hmm
So, how does Chinese medicine help that?
Well, so we talked about, when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, about a test called the Dutch test. And I'm going to step away from traditional Chinese medicine for just a second,
Yep.
but I do use that to treat hormone imbalances. The Dutch test is a dried urine test,
Mm-hmm.
and it it gives the metabolites, so the end products, basically, I'll say, of all of your hormones, including cortisol, DHEA, which is dihydroepiandro androsterone. Thank you, dihydroepiandrosterone, which governs skin. It says the sex hormones. It helps the body make testosterone and estrogen. Um, so all of the hormones, including the estrogen, the progesterone, the testosterone, um, it gives the breakdown of all of those hormones. And so we can see, for example, in a menopausal woman, a lot of women are estrogen dominant. And by that, I mean, they actually carry a lot of weight in the gut and in their triceps. And so sometimes I can, look at somebody and say, oh my gosh, she's estrogen dominant. But what that means is she has a higher number of the 4 and the 16 hydroxy estrogens, which can be damaging to the body, to the DNA. And it would be my hope that we get rid of those, open up the body to get rid of those pathways, to get rid of those excess estrogen pieces, and address food that contributes to excess estrogen, and beauty products, and that type of thing. So but also using, like you say, some acupuncture, certain hormone points. Spleen 6 is a great point for, it's on the it's on the lower leg, but if somebody's having hot flashes and just experiencing those menopausal type symptoms.
Can you be on hormone replacement therapy and use traditional Chinese medicine at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of women are kind of going the bioidentical hormone
Yep.
direction right now. And I think it can be married in a really nice combination of things that can keep hot flashes under control and mood swings under control. And talking about mood swings and hot flashes, I like to use holy basil and rhodiola for mood balance. So
Once
yeah,
you start taking these herbs, how long does it take for them to start to show their positive effects?
it's not long. I think depending on what the delivery system is, because I have some that are liposomal, taken right under the tongue, to go directly into the bloodstream and have almost an immediate effect. So I really don't. Nothing that I use is long acting, so to speak, that it takes a while to build up in the bloodstream, so to speak. They act on it right away.
And what about women who are going through the change, that experience hair loss, hair shedding? I mean, that's just a horrible experience to go through as a woman. I had major hair shedding. It started about 2 years ago. And that's when I really started hormone replacement therapy to try to help balance myself. And it comes and goes. It's just, I eat well, I exercise, I do all the things, right?
All the things, yep.
But where does traditional Chinese medicine come into play to help combat that?
Yeah, I think it's just creating balance. That is when you look at the yin and the yang symbol, what that is creating balance in the body. And so rather than trying to try to hit the nail on the head, sometimes if somebody's got if they're losing their hair, or having some kind of baldness issues and that type of thing, I would look at the hormones. I would do a Dutch test. I would look at the thyroid, because thyroid is a big hair related organ as well, gland as well. But the kidney is governed by, or hair is governed by the kidney. And so and when I say that, is meaning let's say somebody has a kidney deficiency, that can mean that, or a spleen deficiency, or that means that I know I need to support the kidney. And so sometimes when I do that with certain things like solidago, which is a botanical, and that helps the kidney just kind of be supported, regenerate, so to speak, and that takes care of the issue. Now I would also look at are we eating some healthy fats, and that type of thing. I know a lot of people take biotin uh, for hair and so on, but yeah, addressing it from all aspects. Again, I think that's a key.
Let's talk about nutrition for a minute. Do you find it challenging to make it very clear to your patients that while they're going through this health journey, nutrition is a huge part of it? And they absolutely need to support all of the modalities you're delivering to them
Mhm.
with a healthy way of eating.
Sometimes it's a little more difficult than others. Sometimes people, embrace that piece. Um, and I know it's hard. It's hard with, you know, lots of things going on, and you can't we can't live in a bubble. I mean, I guess we can because we have for the last year or more.
Right.
But all jokes aside, getting that, like you said, getting them to incorporate and realize what a big piece that what they're putting into their body, how that affects them, um, and they just can't, come in and have acupuncture or come in and do this or that and expect to have, lasting change.
Right.
It takes some understanding, and I try to encourage patients to write down or to go through like why they're doing this. If they're doing it just to fit in a bathing suit for spring break, chances are that's not a long lasting reason to make these changes. But if you are honestly looking at, hey, I want to get rid of my anxiety and my depression, or I want to sleep better, just trying to nurture that that uh, reducing the inflammatory foods is such a huge part of that piece. um, is really what I try to do. And for the most part, I try to encourage people as best I can. Nobody wants to come in and be yelled at or say, why didn't you lose 5 pounds or
Right.
XYZ.
Right.
So I find that the encouraging, just try to reiterate, you're doing well, but also being able to live life and go to weddings and go to birthday parties and celebrations and so on and so forth. And again, creating balance, um, uh, I think is a healthy way to go about it.
Do you look at genetic SNPs
Mhm.
with any of your patients? And tell the listeners what a genetic SNP is
Yeah.
and how you would even discover if someone had one.
So a genetic SNP is SNP, stands for single nucleotide polymorphism, and that's just what it is. In your genetic code, there are little SNPs, meaning like I envision them as SNIP, a little snip of something, right? So it is. Uh, I usually look at SNPs with a company called 3X4 Genetics, and it's you just take a swab of the inside of your cheek and send it in, uh, and I didn't do it with this company, but in my mom's case, I did because I wanted to know cardiovascular wise, what I was looking at, and so I wouldn't. I think it's a good thing for anybody to have done, just for more curiosity's sake. But I think it provides essential information in creating, a treatment plan and knowing, okay, uh, patient has a SNP of the vitamin D receptor, so they may not absorb or incorporate vitamin D in, like, a person that didn't have a genetic SNP for the vitamin D receptor. So you might have to, figure out a different way to with the vitamin D. So in terms of absorption and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think treating genetic SNPs is a good thing to incorporate.
Yeah, it's intriguing to me. I have the MTHFR genetic SNP. And so basically, it's just a genetic mutation on my methylfolate cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the percentage of people that have it is up to like 80% globally that have it. So it's very, very common.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an amazing doctor by the name of Dr. Ben Lynch, who wrote an amazing book about these genetic SNPs. And I think there's about 8 of major SNPs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to know this information about yourself because it does affect the way you absorb vitamins and minerals and
detox pathways and
absolutely
body detoxifies and
foods you should be eating, foods you shouldn't be eating. He goes into the description of your personality based on these genetic mutations, which is really cool. It's always spot on. I'm always like, oh yeah, I'm that. So I think it is a piece of the puzzle for everybody to request genetic SNP information testing for themselves. Why not, right?
Yeah, it's good, information to have, and any information we can gather in trying to help somebody is going to be worth it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
When you utilize traditional Chinese medicine and functional medicine protocols for healing, do you prescribe a specific way? Oh, we talked about eating. Are you for being a vegan, or do you really see the value in having animal fats and proteins as part of your diet?
Yeah, I think we need fats and proteins for sure. And for a healthy thyroid, we need protein, no question. And when you're talking about
thyroid, animal protein versus vegan protein?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. And healthy fats. I think that's what the thyroid needs for, let's take weight loss, for example. It needs some healthy animal protein. And I think, body recovery from exercise, I think protein is a really useful thing. So I don't, particularly prescribe a vegan or really vegetarian. I say that, maybe 3/4 of your plate might be vegetables and a quarter, half be vegetables, a quarter protein and a quarter healthy fat. Right. So, and I think, just kind of a balance of those 3 things. And carbs are important. Carbs are important for, any kind of endurance athlete and that type of thing. So definitely not saying to completely take out the carbs either, but again, the balance piece of it.
What are your top 3 foods to eat to support a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, I would say cruciferous veggies. So kale, Brussels sprouts, those greens, because those help support healthy detox pathways. My number 2 would be some healthy fats, some salmon, avocado, those types of healthy fats, and then protein is really what I would say.
And before we end, I've got to ask you, what are your top 3 lifestyle hacks to support a healthy lifestyle?
So I would say reducing or eliminating inflammatory foods, exercise, and nurturing that mental, emotional, social health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Beth, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I absolutely love talking about traditional Chinese medicine and learning new things for myself to utilize in my own life. I am a huge fan of acupuncture. And for any of the listeners out there who want to reach out to Dr. Beth, I'm going to put in the show notes all of her contact information, her IG, her Facebook, her website. And she also has some amazing recipes that I was checking out on your website. So I love that you show what you're cooking.
Yeah.
I love that you show recipes that are I knew you ate meat because I saw your recipes. Right. And I'm a carnivore, so I'm always looking at what is everybody eating, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it. Any last words you want to share about traditional Chinese medicine and just, for our listeners out there who have never tried anything like that before?
Yeah, I would just say try to be open-minded and just do a little bit of research and just because I am here to say that it works and what we do works, and even though it might not be FDA regulated or otherwise, but we're healing people and we're getting people well, so there's got to be something behind it.
Absolutely. It is a mindset and it's a commitment to your health. And with that, we're going to say goodbye and thank you again for joining me as my guest. And I look forward to, more podcasts in the future.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.